Hello again, fellow YouTubers. This is a video about my favorite states. I've been traveling here and there for 22 years, and I've been to every single state except for Hawaii. And I know I could make a nice magazine article, top recommended places in the U.S. to go to, and top ones to not go to. But my number one favorite. Well, it used to be. I was kind of on the fence about this state. It's kind of like really close second in all actuality. It's the state of Oregon. God told me to represent for Oregon, which I will, but just like the Bible says in so many words, certain things can undo everything. And I've heard rare people from Oregon say things that were totally unacceptable, as they unjustly use children as verbal abuse. And as far as that cheating dating website goes, called AshleyMadison.com, neither any city and neither the state of Oregon is at the top of the list to have the most Ashley Madison accounts. We will give them props up for that. Most of the states, or a good half the states with the least divorces, are right by the ocean. I seen this one episode of National Geographic called Animal Fight Night, and it talked about how usually the animals that physically test other animals are younger, less experienced ones. And one time they called this one young, inexperienced animal that, here we go again, testing the more experienced, older animal. They called him an upstart. And I looked up that word on powerthesaurus.org, and one of the terms I found as a synonym for that word is status seeker. When you have what it takes to own boardwalk property by the ocean, because all these other cheaters, they try to overplay their hand and try to overplay their hand and try to get what they cannot get. You know what I'm saying? So they'll find one person, and then they'll keep that person on the side and try to overplay their hand, trying to try to get a better hand through somebody else. And a synonym term for the word upstart is status seeker. So why would a status seeker seek status? Because he or she ain't got no status to begin with. But if you already have high enough status to own boardwalk property, you already got high status. And so you see the point I'm making? Okay, so now when those George Floyd riots went down, if I remember this right, Portland, Oregon rioted the longest and the hardest than any other city in the U.S. I heard this one dude tried to insist this Portland, Oregon mayor wear a mask, and that mayor sprayed that status seeker in the face with mace. He very much got what he deserved with that, if you ask me. And you know, in Massachusetts, they're very academically smart, okay? Because I hear Boston has the highest amount of, in the Boston area, it has amongst the highest amount of colleges than any other U.S. state. It's close to the top or at the very top of the list with that. And no wonder why they got amongst the least amount of divorces, smartest people in general, and healthiest people in general. But again, as I said in a different video, Massachusetts blew it when I found out that Boston is at the top of the list to have the most Ashley Madison accounts. So that's what you call those form of sex offenders. In Oregon, what was I going to say about Oregon now? they like to unjustly use children as verbal abuse. Now, as God told me to represent for Oregon, I very much will be doing that eventually, but they're not at the top of my list. They're at a close number 2. There is one bookstore that takes up a whole city block, and it's a used bookstore, and master martial artist named Scott Boleyn talks about this as well. And the Portland, Oregon library system has the most learning materials than in circulation than any other U.S. city. And so people in Oregon, I say all that to say this, that people in Oregon are very book smart in general. And now a synonym for punk is second class. Okay, and Oregon overall, generally overall speaking, they're not second class citizens with second class behavior. Okay, now also a synonym for punk is bully. A synonym for punk and bully is a snob. The more towards the center of the U.S. that you go, the bigger snobs and bullies that you find. Ty Lopez will tell you in his 38 Step to Success, it's actually been scientifically proven that some of the most violent people that think they're more valuable than what they really are, people that think they're more valuable than what they really are some of the most violent people. And when the woman rejects them, they flip out. And where does all the most violence in the U.S. happen? Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, New Orleans. They have the most amount of shootings, murders. Where did the first school shooting happen? In Columbine. Okay, where did that theater shooting happen? In Aurora, Colorado, which is in the Denver area. Okay, where did that George Floyd incident happen? In St. Paul and or Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's in the center of the U.S. Okay, so some of the biggest snobs are more towards the center of the U.S. that you go. And as that website goes, nomadcapitalist.com, you want to go where you are treated the best. Okay, and so let's see here. New Orleans is one of the most cursed cities around. It's known as the city of second chances, but it's had some of the most bad weather happen for years now because of the patterns I've been explaining. There is this book I just discovered called The Blood of Emmett Till, and it talked about how this black dude supposedly said one wrong thing to this woman trying to flirt with her, and these white people ganged up on him and lynch mobbed him or whatever and beat him up so bad his face was all disfigured and mutilated or whatever. And his mother in the funeral wanted his body in the funeral in an open casket. And so to show those other bullies what they did to him, to make them feel bad and guilty for what they did, because they should have felt bad and guilty for what they did. Okay, so my number one favorite state, I would have to say, because the thing with Oregon is, the reason why I find people on rare occasions that unjustly use children as verbal abuse that come from Oregon is because, first of all, these people are not saints. They're not going to heaven. People that are true saints and that are truly going to heaven, they don't judge others, okay? Okay, and it's not about them being saints at all. It's about anything they could do to draw attention away from their meth lab that can get them locked up for 20 years. But besides that, let's talk about my absolute number one favorite state, hands down, without a shadow of a doubt, which is New Hampshire. New Hampshire is known as the Granite State. Last time I checked, drug use and dealing of all kinds is illegal on all the levels, state, local, and federal level. And New Hampshire is known as the Granite State. That's why they build their houses, lives, and relationships on a foundation of a rock made out of granite. Okay, this is also known as the live free or die state. Now, when I was taking a Greyhound bus from like Wilmington, Delaware to Vermont, I was gonna check into a psych ward in this town in Vermont, and they took me right across the border into New Hampshire, and I'm homeless. I was crazy back then, just like I am now, and I was broke back then, and I check into an ER psych ward room in a regular hospital. I noticed there's a TV, and I asked for the remote, but one thing I do not have to ask for is what I seen on this TV. There was 2 stations. One was called the Parenting Channel, and it showed this person with a missing leg in a wheelchair raising a family. That's one thing about the East, the Northeast, the New England region, like Maine and New Hampshire, Vermont, maybe Massachusetts. That's one thing about that area is you could have Down syndrome and be treated with the highest expectations. So this person I seen missing a leg in a wheelchair, raising a family, this was on a channel called the Parenting Channel. Now I kept on flipping through the stations, and I noticed a station called the Newborn Channel. And this is kind of a form of a Titanic-like young girl experience. This I seen on again on something called the Newborn Channel, and it showed a parent putting anti-rash cream on the pussy lips on a brand new baby girl's pussy lips. The Newborn Channel showed a parent putting anti-rash cream on the pussy lips of a newborn baby girl. I will always remember that, just like I do remember my rarest of rare Titanic-like interactions with young girls. And if you're in Southern California, you could look normal on the outside and be like Britney Spears and Amanda Bynes and be under that mental health condition known as conservatorship, where you cannot make any decision without consulting a mental health treatment team or something to that effect. You know, in Southern California, they would not show something like that to those party animals. They were conserved like the wild party animals that they were. And so I always do remember the positive and the negative, just like anybody would. And just as it talks about in that book called Happy for No Reason. I'm not homeless now because of drug addictions. Never did any hard drugs because my mom told me they make you age faster. And never struggled with addictions. I'm a blood type O, and blood type O's are wired to travel. We're not just transients. We're also known as hunters/gatherers. And let's see here. So yeah, New Hampshire is ultimately my first number 1 favorite state. Close number 2 is still Oregon. They are still at the top of the list. As that song goes, I am number 1. 3 is not anything below number 2, like a 3 and below is not a winner. And 2, which is Oregon, we very much will remember constructive criticism, being assertive about this. One thing that Oregon can definitely improve on is where people need to stop unjustly using children as rule abuse, because people's sense of worth is already being under assault on many different levels. Anyways, that's all for now. Till next time, bye for now.